Welcome home. My mom retired last month. She said she wanted to take a trip with her friends Florida. Maybe the Keys, somewhere warm enough to make her forget 30 years of Kansas winters. She asked if I could house sit and watch her cats while she was gone. I live 3 states away now, moved there and got a decent job at a large corporation in the city after college. Still, I owed her that much. She texted me where to find the spare key, said she'd already left. I never actually saw her. Just a message, "Thank you, honey. The house misses you." I didn't blame her at all. I knew how airports were around this time of year. To put it as hectic or even hell would be an understatement. Everyone was desperate to get out of their depressing small towns and go on a vacation. For the first few days, everything felt normal. The place smelled exactly how I remembered it. Old carpet, lavender cleaner, a faint undertone of dust. The cats followed me around like shadows. I worked remotely during the day, made dinner at night, slept in my old room. Sometimes I'd catch myself expecting my dad to walk in with a beer and the TV remote. It has been gone since last year. I still remember the police, and then my mom calling me. Hunting accident. Those words hadn't sat right with me ever since. His body was never recovered. Still, it wasn't abnormal for him to go hunting from time to time, typically alone as well. I would have been lying had I said it was a complete surprise that the "I don't need anyone" mentality unfortunately caught up to him. I figured that was likely another reason this trip was so important to my mother. She's been completely distraught. Perhaps this was exactly the escape she needed, even if only temporarily. On the 3rd day, I noticed a glass missing from the cabinet. I'd washed it, put it away. The next morning, one of Mom's picture frames was gone from the hallway. Then a dish towel, then a mug. I started to think maybe I was just misremembering where things went. The house was old. Memory gets fuzzy in familiar rooms. I was also preoccupied with work and the cats. It wasn't insane to assume that maybe I had just been overthinking small mistakes. Still, every night I locked the doors and checked the windows. That's when the noises began. The first night, it came from the vents, soft tapping, then a scrape, like something dragging across metal. The next, from the basement, a muffled thud, then silence. The cats hissed at the door that led down there, fur puffed up. I immediately brushed it off. Old pipes, raccoons, air pressure, any explanation that wasn't haunted or someone's inside the house. Still, I couldn't shake this sickening and deeply dark dread that just sat in my stomach. By the 5th night, I couldn't sleep whatsoever. I kept hearing quiet movements under the floor, directly beneath my bed. I finally went down to the basement. The air was colder than the rest of the house, heavy and damp. Light bulbs buzzed weakly overhead. It looked the same as I remembered. Shelves stacked with paint cans and holiday boxes. But then there was a section of the wall I didn't recognize. A pile of old tarps and rotted wood leaned against it, almost as though they'd been placed to cover something. When I moved them, a narrow crack split through the foundation, just barely wide enough to crawl through. And the putridly vile smell, it hit like a freight train, only comparable to rotten meat left in the sun, inside a bag of decaying sewage. I covered my mouth, gagging and trying to keep my composure with now eyes stinging from repulsion-induced tears. Aiming my flashlight inside, the beam cut through dust and spiderwebs. It looked as though this room had never been cleaned or even truly touched for that matter. Something glinted. Metal, a belt buckle, I crawled in far enough to see him, my father, that is, what was left of him. Sat slumped against the concrete, skin the color of parchment. His jaw hung wide open, teeth slick with decay. His eye sockets were black pits filled with pus-ridden maggots that writhed and fell in slow, lazy drips down his cheeks. The rest of his body was patchy. Some areas were rotted organs with flayed tissue. The rest had been stripped down completely to bone. I don't remember screaming, but my throat burned. I felt the stomach bile eat away at my esophagus. I scrambled backward, practically jumping out of my own skin, knocking over boxes and gasping for air. My head spun like I was on a tilt-a-whirl. I was burning up all over, yet felt as though I had been struck by ice. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered onto the floor beside the crack. I bolted for the stairs, dialing my mother with shaking fingers. I didn't even know if I could speak, but I sure as hell couldn't form a coherent thought. The phone rang once, twice, then another phone rang, not through the speaker. Inside the house. The sound came from the other side of the basement. I froze. "Mom," I said shakingly. "Was she home early? Down in the basement with me this whole time?" It must have been some fucked up prank. I walked over to the other side cautiously. The smell was worse now, thick and alive, almost as though it was spreading throughout the room and crawling to me. My flashlight dimming and cutting out. Glowed weakly near the crack, and next to it, something else. Another body, my mother. Her skin was grey, eyes sunken, mouth fixated in the same horrified frozen gasp. The phone in her hand buzzed, screen lit with my name. Crouched beside her was a man I had never seen. Long and grease-soaked stringy hair. Yellow blood shot crazed eyes. Dried lips, stretched into an abnormally large cracked grin. He picked up the phone, pressed it to his ear, coughing and clearing his voice. Then softening it, almost to an elderly woman's pitch. Then in my mother's perfect voice said, "Hello, Daniel." I couldn't move. He stood slowly to an enormous figure, bloodied knife in hand, his smile shaking with laughter that didn't sound human. "Welcome home," he lunged. I screamed. The flashlight shattered and everything went dark.